Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into one of the deadliest, most mysterious substances known to science, polonium-210. It's a poison so powerful, so incredibly sneaky, it's been called the perfect weapon.
So, let's start with a puzzle, one that really stumped detectives and toxicologists all over the world. How do you possibly catch a killer when the weapon they used is completely invisible? No fingerprints, no wound, not a single thing for the usual tools to pick up on.
The scene is London, back in 2006. A patient named Alexander Litvinenko, a former Russian agent, is in the hospital, and his body is just shutting down, systematically. And for the life of them, doctors had absolutely no idea why.
You can just imagine the scene, right? Doctors are in a race against the clock. They're testing for all the usual suspects, poisons like thallium, but every single test comes back negative. They even bring in Geiger counters to check for radiation, but all they hear is silence. The killer was basically a ghost.
For 3 agonizing weeks, his body just fell apart, and it all started after a simple cup of tea at a hotel in London. First, his hair fell out. Then his immune system completely collapsed, and his organs began to fail one after another. It was this grim, unstoppable march toward death, and nobody knew what was causing it. And then, with literally just hours before he died, a scientist finally found it. While they were analyzing a urine sample, they spotted this tiny, almost imperceptible spike of energy that just shouldn't have been there. It was a 1 in a million clue, this faint whisper of radioactive decay that at last gave the killer a name, polonium-210.
So what is this stuff? What on earth makes it so incredibly potent, but at the same time so ridiculously hard to find?
Well, polonium-210 was actually discovered by the legends themselves, Marie and Pierre Curie. Now, its real power comes from the kind of radiation it gives off, alpha particles. And you shouldn't think of these like energy waves. No, think of them more like microscopic cannonballs, just tearing through anything and everything in their path.
And here's where we get to the central paradox of polonium-210. Those alpha particles it shoots out are unbelievably destructive, but they can't travel far at all. In fact, they're stopped by a single sheet of paper or even just the outer layer of your skin. And that, right there, is the secret to both its lethal power and its incredible stealth.
Yeah, that incredibly short range makes it forensically invisible. You could have a lethal dose sealed in a tiny glass vial, stick it in your pocket, and walk right through airport security. Not a single alarm would go off. It is, for all intents and purposes, the perfect poison to smuggle. Okay, so if it can't even get through your skin, how in the world does it kill you? Well, the danger, the real danger, begins once it gets inside the body.
To really wrap your head around its power, let's compare it to a classic, a movie villain poison like hydrogen cyanide. Cyanide is a chemical. It works by basically suffocating your cells. Polonium-210, that's a radiological weapon. It physically smashes your DNA to pieces, and by weight, it is billions of times more toxic.
A fatal dose is less than a single microgram. We're talking about a particle smaller than a speck of dust. If you inhale it, an even tinier amount is lethal. By mass, it is one of the single deadliest substances known to humanity.
So once it's inside, those alpha particles begin their assault, triggering something called Acute Radiation Syndrome. It starts with just terrible nausea. But then comes this deceptive calm, a period where the victim might actually feel a bit better, but it's a cruel illusion, because internally their bone marrow, their gut lining, it's all being systematically destroyed, which leads, inevitably, to total organ failure.
So the Litvinenko case made polonium-210 famous as this cloak-and-dagger spy weapon, but its story is so much bigger, and in some ways, a lot more common than you'd think.
Now, this isn't something you can just cook up in a basement lab. Making polonium-210 requires a full-blown nuclear reactor. And today, almost all of the world's legal supply, a staggering 97% of it, comes from a single state-run facility in Russia. The total amount they make in a year? Less than 100 grams.
But here's the twist. Despite its dark side, polonium-210 actually has some really important industrial uses. Because it ionizes the air right around it, it's fantastic at getting rid of static electricity. This is crucial when you're making sensitive electronics, or even in things like paper mills. It's also used in those little anti-static brushes for cleaning camera lenses.
But here it is, the most surprising and frankly, the most shocking connection. The most common way people are exposed to polonium-210 isn't through spy games. It's through something way more ordinary, tobacco.
And get this, the tobacco industry knew about this for decades.
Turns out the fertilizers used on tobacco plants cause them to absorb radioactive elements from the soil, including polonium-10. Internal documents show that they actually researched ways to get it out, but they buried the findings. They were afraid, in their own words, of waking a sleeping giant.
Which really brings us to the core paradox of this whole element.
It's this wild contradiction, isn't it? On one hand, you have a vital tool that makes our modern manufacturing possible, and on the other hand, its unique properties make it a silent, untraceable killer. It shapes our world in ways that are both incredibly productive and, well, deeply sinister.
The story of Polonium-210 is really a chilling reminder that sometimes the most dangerous things out there are the ones we can't see. And it makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other invisible forces are shaping our world right under our noses?